Let me ask you a question. What do you call a man who does not know his own birthday, was nearly executed in a foreign jungle, personally ended a civil war, survived a death sentence, went from a prison cell to the presidency, and is still standing, still talking, still shaking tables, decades later? Today, we are going inside the life of one of the most complex, controversial, and undeniably extraordinary figures ever produced by Yoruba land and indeed by Africa. Soldier, statesman, prisoner, president, farmer, theologian. You have seen the pictures, heard the speeches, read the headlines. But what you are about to hear, these 10 things, will change how you see this man forever. Today on Top 10 Yoruba, we are counting down to 10 interesting facts that you didn't know about Chief Olusegun Obasanjo and things that made him extraordinary. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Now let's dive in. Starting at number 10 is the mystery birthday. Here is where the story begins, and it already starts with a mystery. March 5th, 1937. That is the date the world knows as the birthday of Olusegun Obasanjo. It is on his passport, it is in history books, it is quoted in encyclopedias. Britannica will tell you he was born March 5th, 1937, Abeokuta, Nigeria. But here is the truth that most people never stop to ask about. That date, he chose it himself. Obasanjo was born in the village of Ibogun Olaogun in the Owu Heartland near Abeokuta. His father, Amos Adigun Oba Luaye Sanjo Bankole, was a farmer, a hard-working man, a good man. But he was illiterate, and in that era, in that village, nobody was writing down birth dates. There were no hospital records, no civil registration, no government certificates. A child was born, the family celebrated, and life moved on. So when the young Olusegun needed a date of birth for official purposes as he grew older, there was simply nothing to refer to. No document existed because no document had ever been created. What he had instead were stories, things his parents and elders remembered happening around the time of his birth. And from those stories, from those fragments of collective memory, a calculation was made. The events pointed to around early March of 1937, and so the 5th of March was chosen, not confirmed. At number 9 is the story of an accidental soldier, which will completely flip the story you thought you knew. People look at Olusegun Obasanjo and they see a military man. The uniform, the rank, the authority, the discipline. They assume he was born for the army. They assume he walked into recruitment with fire in his chest, dreaming of war and glory and command. Obasanjo did not join the Nigerian army in 1958 because he was passionate about military life. He joined because he could not pay university fees. After finishing secondary school at Baptist Boys High School in Abeokuta, the young Obasanjo wanted to continue his education. He was sharp, he was hungry, he wanted more. But the money was not there. His family simply could not afford to send him to university. The door to higher education at that moment was closed. And then someone told him about the army, the military. In 1958, Nigeria was not just a fighting force, it was also a pathway. A structured institution that would pay you a salary, give you housing, train you in technical skills, and send you abroad for specialized education, all at no personal cost. For a brilliant young man from a poor family in Abeokuta, it was not her second choice. It was the only open door. So he walked through it. The man who joined the military because he could not afford university eventually became Dr. Olusegun Obasanjo. He found another way in. He always found another way. The accidental soldier became a general. The boy who could not afford school became a doctor. This is the Obasanjo that most people have never fully understood. Another fact coming in at number 8 about General Olusegun Obasanjo is that he is a global scholar. Let us stay on the subject of education for one more moment, because this part of Obasanjo's story is consistently overlooked and it deserves its full attention. When people describe Obasanjo, the words they reach for are usually political, controversial, powerful, cunning, strategic. Before he ever wore a general's rank, he stood in front of a classroom as a teacher. After finishing at Baptist Boys High School, Abeokuta, he briefly worked as a school teacher, a young man sharing what little he had learned with those coming behind him. It was a short chapter, but it speaks to something in his character. A man who values knowledge does not hoard it. Then the army took him, and the army educated him further than most civilians of his era could have dreamed. The Royal College of Military Engineering in England, one of the finest institutions of its kind in the world, gave him a rigorous foundation in engineering science. The Indian Army School of Engineering added a different perspective, a different approach, a broader continental view of technical military education. He rose through the ranks not merely as a commander of men, but as a man who understood systems, structures, and how things are built and how they fall apart. And then, decades later, after the military, after the presidency, after prison, after everything, he went back to the books. Not for appearance, not for a title to put on a letterhead. He sat with students. He wrote papers. He defended a thesis. He earned a master's degree and then a PhD in Christian theology from the National Open University of Nigeria. Coming in at number 7 is the story of how he was captured in the Congo. This is where the story gets dangerous. The year is 1961. Nigeria has been independent for barely 1 year. And a young Lieutenant Obasanjo, not yet 30 years old, not yet famous, not yet anything the world would recognize, is deployed to the Democratic Republic of the Congo as part of a United Nations peacekeeping mission. The Congo at that time was in complete chaos. The country had just gained independence from Belgium, and almost immediately the Congolese National Army mutinied against its own government. Rebel factions were fighting everywhere. Belgian settlers were fleeing. Civilians were being slaughtered. The political situation was so unstable that the UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld would eventually lose his life in a plane crash while trying to broker peace there in September of that same year. Into this madness walked a young Nigerian officer named Obasanjo. His assignment was to protect civilians, Belgians who had remained behind, missionaries, aid workers, people caught in the crossfire of a war they had nothing to do with. Kind of assignment where you do not carry glory with you. You carry the weight of other people's lives. In February of 1961, Obasanjo was sent specifically to evacuate Roman Catholic missionaries from a station near Bukavu. He went alone into rebel-held territory on a mission of peace. The rebels captured him. They did not receive him as a peacekeeper. They did not respect his UN mandate. They bundled him into the boot of a car and drove him to their camp. Their intention was to execute him. The man who would one day become the head of state of Africa's most populous nation was once tied up in the boot of a rebel car, being driven toward his own execution in a foreign jungle. But someone among the rebels refused. one soldier would not agree to the execution. A debate broke out, and in that narrow space between yes and no, between a bullet and another breath, Obasanjo survived. He was released. He came out of the Congo alive, and he never forgot what it felt like to be that close to the end. Biafran leader General Odumegwu Ojukwu, seeing the complete collapse, flees into exile in the Ivory Coast on January 9th. He leaves his deputy, Major General Philip Effiong, to handle what comes next. And what comes next is the surrender. On January 12th, Philip Effiong, along with Biafran officers Achuzie and Obugo Kalu, makes his way to Owerri, to Obasanjo's position, and broadcasts the formal declaration of Biafra's surrender. The words are simple and final. We accept the authority of the federal military government of Nigeria. The war is over. Obasanjo is the man who received those words. He is the one who stood in that room, in that uniform, as the opposing commander surrendered to him. He did not fire the last shot. He fired the last operation, and that is what ended the war. He was 32 years old. Number 5 is the untold story of a reluctant leader. On February 13, 1976, General Murtala Muhammad, Nigeria's military ruler, a bold and decisive reformer, is shot dead in his car during a coup attempt led by Colonel Buka Sukadimka. Lagos erupts in shock. The Supreme Military Council scrambles. Nigeria needs a new leader immediately. And they go looking for Olusegun Obasanjo. They find him. And here is what almost no history book tells you. According to accounts from those closest to events, Obasanjo does not leap at the opportunity. He does not stride forward with ambition and confidence. He reportedly breaks down. He is weeping. He has just watched his close colleague and superior officer murdered in the streets. An attempt had also been made on his own life during the same coup, except the assassins killed the wrong man. Someone else died in a case of mistaken identity. Obasanjo knows this. He knows they came for him. And now they are asking him to sit in the same seat that just got his predecessor killed. He is said to have initially refused. He did not want power. He wanted to survive. He told those pressing him that he was taking on this role against his personal wish. Those are words heavy with meaning. Against his personal wish. But he stepped forward anyway, because someone had to. Because Nigeria was teetering. Because the vacuum was dangerous. He stood up. Not from ambition, not from hunger for power, but from duty, from a reluctant sense that when your country calls and no one else can answer, you answer. Number 4 is the death sentence. The year is 1995. Nigeria is under the iron grip of General Sani Abacha, one of the most brutal military dictators the continent has ever produced. Human rights activists are being jailed, journalists are disappearing, opposition voices are being silenced. Ken Saro-Wiwa will be executed this same year. Nigeria is a pariah state. Olusegun Obasanjo, retired from the military and living on his farm in Ota, is not silent. He speaks. He writes letters. He attends conferences. He criticizes the Abacha regime openly on human rights, on governance, on the direction of the country. He is a former head of state. a man with global connections, and he refuses to be quiet. Abacha decides he has had enough. In March of 1995, a coup plot is allegedly uncovered. A colonel named Bello Fadil, who has been tortured into signing a confession, names Obasanjo as someone who was informed about the plot. The evidence is fabricated under duress. Obasanjo denies everything, but Abacha insists on a military tribunal, not a civilian court, a military tribunal, where the outcome is already decided before the proceedings begin. On the 14th of July 1995, the tribunal sentences Olusegun Obasanjo to death. The former head of state, who had voluntarily handed over power to a civilian government, is now sitting in a prison cell waiting to be killed. The international community erupts. World leaders intervene. The United States, Britain, human rights organizations. The pressure is enormous and relentless. Even former head of state Yakubu Gowon writes personally to Abacha, pleading for Obasanjo's life. The death sentence is commuted. First to 30 years, then to 15 years. The man Abacha could not kill would not stay defeated. And as we will soon see, Abacha himself would not stay alive much longer. As we talk about number 3, where Obasanjo is labeled the double pioneer, let us pause from the drama for a moment and look at a record that is extraordinary by any global standard. Most countries, most democracies have never achieved it once. Olusegun Obasanjo achieved it twice. When he became military head of state in February 1976, after the assassination of Murtala Mohammed, the expectation across Africa at that time was simple. Military rulers do not leave. They hold power, they extend their stay, they find reasons why elections must be postponed, why the country is not ready, why they alone must remain to guide the transition that never actually arrives. Obasanjo broke that pattern. October 1979, after 3 years and 8 months in power, he organized elections. Free, credible elections, and handed power to the winner, civilian politician Shehu Shagari of the National Party of Nigeria. He put on no ceremony about it. He did not negotiate a role for himself. He did not demand immunity or positions or protections. He handed over the instruments of government and went home to his farm in Ottawa. He was the first military ruler in Africa to voluntarily, peacefully, and completely hand over power to a democratically elected civilian government. Africa had never seen it done before. The world noticed. But the story does not end. In 2007, after serving 2 terms as a civilian, elected president, a presidency with its own controversies, its own achievements, and its own battles, he presided over the election that handed power to Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. It was the first time in Nigeria's history that a civilian president successfully completed his term and transferred power to another elected civilian president. He holds both records, the only African military ruler to leave voluntarily, and a key figure in Nigeria's first civilian-to-civilian democratic transfer. No other person alive on this continent, or perhaps in the world, carries those 2 distinctions at the same time. Not one. And number 2, we go back to the prison and how Chief Obasanjo spent 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days behind bars. The numbers matter here, and the symmetry of Obasanjo's suffering. If you believe in science, if you believe that some lives are scripted for something larger than themselves, it's almost impossible to explain away as coincidence. From the moment Olusegun Obasanjo entered Yola prison in 1995 to the moment Sani Abacha died suddenly on June 8th, 1998. Unlocking the door of his captivity, the time he spent in prison was 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days. Many Nigerians who noticed the pattern simply stopped trying to explain it. Numbers like that, in a life like this, do not feel like accident. Within months of his release, the same nation that had imprisoned him was asking him to save it. General Abdulsalami Abubakar, who replaced Abacha, was moving toward democratic elections. Nigeria needed a candidate. Powerful voices, military, civilian, religious, and regional, began converging on one name. The man who had just come out of prison. His kinsman with MKO Abiola, whose mandate was stolen and killed for daring to ask for his right, so Obasanjo meets all the requirements. Iran. He won the 1999 presidential election with 63% of the vote, defeating Olufale in what was Nigeria's first democratic election after 16 years of military rule. On May 29, 1999, a date now celebrated as Democracy Day, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo was sworn in as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. People compared him to Nelson Mandela. Both imprisoned by unjust regimes, both released, both elected to lead their nations, both carrying the wounds of captivity into the highest office in the land. He went from a prison cell to the presidential villa in less than 1 year, and he ruled for 8 years. And now we arrive at number 1. Everything else we have discussed, the mystery birthday, the accidental soldiering, the capture in the Congo, the civil war, the death sentence, the records, the prison, all of it adds up to something that Yoruba people simply recognized a long time ago and gave a name to Ebora. In Yoruba, Ebora does not mean ordinary. It does not mean lucky. It means something closer to a living spirit, a force that inhabits human form, a presence that operates on a frequency beyond the understanding of regular men. When the Owu people attached that word to Obasanjo's name, they were not speaking metaphorically. They were making a declaration. This man is not dying. This man cannot be finished. There is something on his life that ordinary forces cannot touch. Look at the evidence. Nearly executed in the Congo, but survived, marked for assassination during the 1976 coup. The killers shot the wrong person. Sentenced to death by Abacha. The sentence was overturned. His captor himself, Abacha, died. He walked out of prison to take his position. He is the Balogun of Owu, the military title of the Eba, one of the highest traditional honors in that land. He holds traditional chieftaincy titles that place him not just in the political hierarchy of Nigeria, but in the spiritual and cultural hierarchy of his people. And there are those respected elders, traditional rulers, people whose opinions are not given lightly, who say that Obasanjo's survival across 7 decades of Nigerian political life, from the civil war to prison to the presidency and beyond, cannot be explained by strategy alone. He is about 90 years old, still strong, still writing, still speaking, still appearing at events, still issuing statements that shake political tables. You can agree with him, you can disagree with him. You can celebrate his legacy or debate his failures, but you cannot ignore him. Nigeria has never produced another Olusegun Obasanjo. Africa has not seen his equivalent. A man who held the nation's surrender in his hands, who sat in a death row cell and came out to lead that same nation, who gave power away twice when every temptation said to hold on, and who, after all, seems immortal. That is our countdown. 10 things about one of the most remarkable lives in the history of this continent. Which one surprised you the most? Was it the mystery birthday, the Congo, the prison numbers that add up in threes? Tell us in the comments. We genuinely want to know. If this video gave you something new to think about, please like it and share it. Subscribe to Top 10 Yoruba because this channel is where the deep stories live, the ones that go beyond the headlines and into the heart of who our people are and what they have survived. We will see you in the next one.